Hi, today I'm going to talk about whether it's easier to achieve financial independence if you work abroad for uh, for about 10-15 years. Well, there's no short answer to this because what is financial independence is subjective. It's not very well defined. What may be financial independence for you, it may not be for someone else, right? It depends on a number of factors, so it's not entirely well defined. However, there are few things which are commonly considered to be the features or the aspects of being financially independent, which is that you have a decent corpus of money to survive for quite a number of years in your life, right? So I can share a bit about from my own experience of working abroad for more than 10 years now. Again, this whatever I'm going to talk about here, please don't take anything as an advice, investment advice or anything of that sort. That is not what I am trying to talk about here. In fact, I do not think that I am the best person to advise you on that. There are professionals out there. If you really want any advice, please reach out to them. I'm not the best person out there. All right, so I'll just share my own experience, but what I have also heard from people who have lived abroad for 15, 20 years or even longer, and whether they have achieved financial independence sooner than if they had lived and worked in their home country. Right, there's no doubt that you will be earning more money on an absolute basis compared to your home country. Like, I moved from India to Europe, so my salary increased quite dramatically. The moment I moved to Europe. But there are many other aspects, right? It's not just about the money that you make, but also how much you spend and so on, right? When you are a bachelor, you are not married, don't have kids, you can share an apartment, you save a lot of money, so that really helps. And if you make a lot of money and save a lot of money in your early in your career, right, in your 20s, mid 20s, right, that has a lot of value because you get the benefit of compounding on that, right? So the money that you make early in your life is extremely valuable because if you can save that money and invest a bit of that money, then it really grows and you get a good passive income later on. So that really helps. But I'm going to talk a lot about that. So don't think everything is hunky dory. You can also see the bad side of it. Good side obviously that you make more money initially, but after a while in Europe specifically, the growth is not necessarily that great. Growth in terms of the money, that the actual growth on your salary stagnates after a while. And the difference between the salary of your friends who are in the similar profile, or ex-colleagues in a similar profile in a home country, to where you currently live, that difference, actually that gap narrows over time. I mean, in fact, at some point, if you take into account the living costs and taxes and everything, then it would be even in some cases, even the people in home country probably are making more money than me in Europe. So that could potentially be the case. It's not yet there, I would say, but maybe in few years times, I don't know. Right. In terms of taxes, Europe is where you pay a lot of money in taxes. In Netherlands, you get this benefit of paying less taxes for 5 years. So that really helped me because I came from abroad and I qualified for that tax rebate for 5 years. It used to be for 8 years, 10 years, but now the government has reduced it to for 5 years. They're even thinking of getting rid of it, but I benefited from it. So that really helped. The other one thing is that some people benefit from the exchange rate. They save the money in the local currency. Not necessarily a good idea, but some people benefit from that because the currency appreciation or the depreciation of the local currency. For example, the INR is getting depreciated over time, so that also helps sometimes. Um, One other, in fact, the perhaps the biggest benefit is that, unlike in many countries where both wife working together, uh, especially when they have kids, it's practically impossible in many countries. But in Europe, that's quite possible actually. The benefits are really good, and the work-life balance is so good that both of you can work, and that really helps in terms of speeding up your financial journey towards independence. Right, that really helps. There are other good things also, like many people have bought homes in Europe, and home prices have gone like this, like with a steep increase. I don't consider that as part of your financial independence. Some people do. I don't, because that's where you live. But eventually, if you want to leave the country and you want to sell, maybe that some part of it can be considered as a liquid portion of your entire portfolio, but not all of it. But then the house prices have gone up everywhere in the world. So wherever you go, you'll have to buy one other house at a much higher price, right, compared to 10 years back. So the gain you have made in one country will be offset by the money that you will be using to buy a house at a high price. So that's not a great benefit. One other benefit is that in many of the European countries, you don't pay capital gain taxes, so that's also helpful. But you also pay other taxes such as wealth tax and so on. We don't have, for example, in India there's barely any wealth tax, but in Europe, so that really helps for a lot of people, right? Especially in areas where you don't get paid a lot in some of the country. In India, I know many IT professionals don't make good money. Salaries are really, really bad, especially in service companies. When these guys move abroad, the number of times the salary becomes higher is just insane, right? Somebody making 10,000 US dollar in India could be making, like, say 80,000 or 90,000 or even $100,000 in Europe. That's like 9 to 10 times your salary. But because in India, for example, when I was there, right, the quants used to be paid anywhere between 30 to 40 lakhs. My time, I'm talking about 10 years back. Quite good money back then. Whereas the similar experienced people in IT used to be paid like 7 to 8 lakhs. So difference used to be huge. But when you move abroad, the difference is not that huge between somebody working as a quant, somebody working as an IT professional. I mean, there is a bit of a difference, but not a lot of difference, right? It's not like 300% difference, right? So those guys who come from areas where for skills you don't get that great salary in home country, when you move abroad, your salary increases leap and bound, and that really helps, right? Because there's too many IT professionals out there in India. So because of the heavy supply, and the constant demand, stagnated demand, the salary doesn't increase, right? Whereas in some of the other areas, for example, in management consulting, in finance related roles, the supply is still not there quite big in India, and salaries are still okay, I would say even good. And in top tier tech skills, for example, if you work with Amazon or Google in India, yeah, I mean, you don't have to then move abroad because salaries there are very, very good, right? So to summarize, yes, you earn quite a bit of money, especially early in your career. If you move abroad in your 30s, it's not necessarily a great idea, but if you move during your 20s, I think that's a really good idea, because that's when you can save a bit of money early in your life, and that really helps a lot, getting the compounding effect on your portfolio. Having said that, the cost of living can be extremely concerning in some cases, especially for someone who loves to go out and do things. Things can be very expensive. If you live a frugal life, then yeah, it's still okay. But otherwise, in many countries, you have house help, and you spend a hell of money doing other things. Whereas in Europe, you can't do that. You'll be in trouble. In Europe, you have pension system, right? That's a really good thing, which is not there. Well, it's there in India, in other countries, but not necessarily very good. So the pension really helps. So that really also contribute towards your financial independence, because you get the pension after certain age. So you just have to think about the years in between that, right? Um, in India, what I have heard is that people want to be financially independent by the age of 40. That to me is too strange, and 40 shouldn't be an age to retire. Well, it's not necessarily retire, but just being financially independent, that's also a bit too optimistic considering the future expenses, inflation, and so on and so forth. Unless you have a strong start, like you get generation wealth, or you are in the top paying jobs from the very beginning, maybe that's an exception, but that's not necessarily a rule. But in Europe, nobody wants to retire at the age of 40, or no. I mean, thinking that you'll be financially independent by 40, you'll be very, very optimistic, right? 50 would be a decent year, a decent age to say that okay, I have some sort of financial independence. But then, where do you want to retire? If you want to retire in a less developed country like India or Thailand, Indonesia, those places, then yes, then you have earned your money in euros, spending in rupees or rupiah, or those local currencies, then that's good. But if you want to retire in Europe itself, then yeah, then you can't say you are financially independent, because it's quite expensive also. That's the reason why many people continue working even at the age of 60, 65 in Europe, simply because even if you have like €1 million in your bank account, it's still not enough, because the living costs are very, very high. Also, you don't have to retire, because the work life is so good, and it's a very respectable work environment here in Europe, that you don't have to retire, right? And what's the point in retiring if you can spend, let's say 35 hours, 40 hours a week, just socializing, working on things, and that still pays you money? Why retire, right? One other thing being, you also have state pension, right? Beside your company pension, you also have state pension, compulsory state pension. So that really is also good. You have other social security benefits, which are also amazing. People don't take these things very seriously, especially the expats who come from other countries. They don't care about social security much. They don't value that much. They only care about the money they're getting. And a lot of people complain about less money they make in Europe compared to in the US and Canada and Australia and so on, or Dubai even. But in those countries, the social security benefits are not there, right? Hence, if you combine, Europe is quite a good deal in my view. And to answer your question, in my own case, I would say it has really helped me. But I have also come across people who regret that they didn't manage to save much, simply because just one of the spouse was working. It's not, if both of them are not working, then it's quite difficult living here in Europe. So both of husband and wife both have to work. And the second thing is that if someone who loves spending a lot of money on doing things, then it's super expensive in Europe. So if you are somebody who is traveling a lot, if somebody who is eating out a lot, and not and spending money on different activities, then Europe is good for living, but not for independence, financial independence. Certainly not for financial independence. But if you live a frugal life, you can achieve financial independence. It's not a problem, right? So these are some of the things I wanted to share. If I have any questions for life in Europe in general, but career-related questions in Europe regarding moving to Europe, let me know in the comment section.